Steelers fans, you will not believe what Fox Sports' Colin Cowherd had to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers this week after Pittsburgh absolutely destroyed the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football in Week 15. Welcome into the Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. And if you guys want better Steelers takes than what you get on ESPN, Fox Sports, guys that don't really follow the Steelers, make sure you guys click that subscribe button for free today to join a dedicated channel here on YouTube that all we do is cover the Pittsburgh Steelers. We watch the film, we go over the numbers so that you guys don't necessarily have to in your busy lives, but you guys can benefit from our research here on Steelers Talk, and you can know more Steelers football than the average bear. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. With that, let's get into what the clown Colin Cowherd had to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their current win streak here. He says the Steelers' recent success feels good, but it's a candy rush. It's Groundhog Day. Stopgap at quarterback, barely above 500, rinse and repeat, and that's where we are. I feel like the Steelers' model is what I have a problem with. They care about two things that just don't matter to people with high standards. One of them is, hey, we have a winning record. Sean Payton never talks about that in Denver. It's not a thing. When you have high standards, winning record isn't a top 3 or 4 thing. Winning division, winning playoff games, winning conference championships, winning Super Bowls, winning a big free agency on a star quarterback in his prime, that's the stuff people care about winning. The other thing is winning on Monday Night Football. Like, yippee, how about winning in January? It's been a while since you've done that. Now, in terms of where I think Colin Cowherd is right in his comments here, is I think that there is an argument to be made, a very coherent one, that the Steelers' team-building philosophy, which is very defensive-centric, where they're paying a bunch of money to all these defensive players, I think you can make an argument that's not the best way to build a consistent contender in terms of winning championships in the National Football League. It's an offensive league. The rules tilt towards offensive football. So to pay all that money to the defensive side of the ball and to not give that many resources to the offensive side of the ball, it's not necessarily a recipe for success. But where I think Colin is wrong in his comments is that he just assumes that the Steelers are just like, they're coming together in the offseason. They're just saying, how do we get to 9-8? How do we get to just a winning record? How do we get to this point where we don't win championships? We don't even care about that stuff, man. It's like, no, they obviously want to win, and they obviously want to win at a high level. It's just the results haven't gotten there, all right? Like, no one's goal in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, guys, is to just have a winning record. Like Art Rooney, Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, Aaron Rodgers. You ask any of these guys, they're not going to sit there and tell you, oh, yeah, we have a winning record. We're good. No, that's not the case, all right? What have we been hearing from Mike Tomlin and Art Rooney and Omar Khan over the last several off seasons? We got to take the next step. Right, we got to take the next step and try and win in the playoffs and compete for Super Bowls. So that's where their focus is right now. And in fact, the Steelers have actually done a lot of non-Steeler-like things and have switched things up in their team-building philosophy in order to try and take that next step. All right, like if you would have told me 10 years ago the Pittsburgh Steelers would wait months for a quarterback to sign with them, I would tell you you're crazy. But that's what they did for Aaron Rodgers this offseason. And guess what? That was the correct move. Aaron Rodgers has been the best quarterback that they could have gotten realistically during the offseason this year, outside of maybe giving Sam Darnold a bunch of money or whatever. Like, given the information that we knew about these quarterbacks at the time, Aaron Rodgers made the most sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. And right now, he's putting you in a position here where I think the Steelers have the best chance to win a playoff game, since COVID, pretty much where we're at right now. And that's a good thing. That is a step in the right direction. And, at the end of this thing, I think, the Pittsburgh Steelers could be looking at a playoff victory at the end of the year. So, no, the Steelers are not just sitting there saying, oh, we went 9-8 this year. Woohoo, yippee, yes, us, or we're great. No. The standard here in Pittsburgh is still to try and compete for championships. Now, they haven't met that standard, and we can talk about the reasons why they haven't been meeting that standard here at this organization. And Mike Tomlin does have a role in that, but that's not the active goal here in Pittsburgh. That is a stupid take from Colin Cowherd that all they care about is going 9-8 or 10-7 every year and just being okay with that. That is absolutely 100% not the case. But also, Cowherd said something else really dumb this week about the Pittsburgh Steelers, saying that Pittsburgh does not have a great offensive line and has no run game. He continues to say this, and it just shows that he does not follow this team whatsoever. The Pittsburgh Steelers currently have the lowest pressure rate in the entire National Football League by a pretty wide margin at 26.5%. That is an awesome number, guys. You take a look at the top 5 lowest pressure rates in the league this year. You have a 4-point difference between you and the next team, the Los Angeles Rams, at over 30%. So the Pittsburgh Steelers doing a great job pass protecting. Also, Aaron Rodgers getting the ball out fast helps that number, but the offensive line has certainly taken steps forward. To say that this offensive line is not a great O-line is just proof that this is a guy that doesn't watch Pittsburgh Steeler football. And then when it comes to the run game, he's been pushing this narrative in the media that the Steelers don't have a good run game. They're currently top 10 in both rushing EPA and in rushing success rate this year. All right, Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell, you can make an argument, is the best thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense this year. They have been awesome for this offense this year. So, I mean, if you are listening to Colin Cowherd and thinking that he's got, the great insight and the great nuance when it comes to Steelers coverage, I mean, all I have to say to you is subscribe to Steelers Talk here and compare and contrast and tell me what you think in a week, all right? Because this is just not, inducive of what the Pittsburgh Steelers actually are doing or what kind of team they actually have here in 2025. So coming up next here on Steelers Talk, I'm actually going to tell you about a big advantage that Aaron Rodgers gives to the Pittsburgh Steelers when and if this team wins the division and gets into the NFL postseason this year. But before I reveal what that advantage is, let me know down there in the comments section, what is the percent chance that the Pittsburgh Steelers win a playoff game this year? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance, there's no way they win a playoff game this year, to 100%, meaning they're definitely winning at least one playoff game this year. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at GLD. While I tell you about today's sponsor, give me a number down there in the comments section for today's Pin question. Now let's have word from our sponsor today at GLD. And let's be real, guys, buying men's jewelry nowadays is a complete nightmare, all right? Most of the time, you get low-quality junk that just snaps after a week, or it was insanely overpriced with ridiculous markups. That's why I love GLD. Use code CHAT to get 50% off the entire GLD website right now. That is GLD.com. GLD has completely changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike other companies, GLD only uses real gold, none of that cheap stuff, and every single stone is meticulously hand set. Plus, their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference with GLD. Now, I've actually been wearing this Steelers pendant here for a little while, guys. I don't have it on today, but I wear it during our watch parties every single week here on Steelers Talk, and I absolutely love GLD's products. And you guys know that feeling when you get a new chain and you wear it out, and it just hits different. It elevates your entire fit from the compliments to the compliments, all the way to how you carry yourself. It just changes instantly when you have a great piece of jewelry on. And GLD has everything from chains, pendants, rings, and even fully iced out watches if you're a big fan of Shedeur Sanders for some reason. But whatever your style, they've got you covered with GLD. And listen, don't just take my word for it, guys. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 five-star reviews back that up. Not to mention, it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. And the best part, every single piece of GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last as long as your Pittsburgh Steelers fandom, which hopefully is for the rest of your life. Work hard and change the game with GLD today. Right now, GLD is making holiday shopping easy for you because for a limited time only, new customers get an insane deal. Use code CHAT to get 50% off their entire website at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. And a big thank you to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Now, the big advantage that Aaron Rodgers gives to the Pittsburgh Steelers when and if they get to the playoffs this year is his experience playing in the postseason, all right? Because if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers will have pretty much more playoff wins and more playoff experience than the rest of the AFC combined when it comes to the quarterback position. You guys can take a look here at the total amount of playoff games played among current AFC playoff teams, and Aaron Rodgers has 21 games played. Josh Allen is right behind him with 13, but then the rest of the crowd there is pretty inexperienced when it comes to playoff football. C.J. Stroud only has 4 games under his belt. Trevor Lawrence has 2. Same thing goes for Justin Herbert. Bo Nix had 1 last year, and Drake May is going to be brand new to the party. when the Patriots make the playoffs this year. So, I mean, you add all those up, you get 22 football games. That is right there with Aaron Rodgers at the top of the pile. And then when it comes to playoff wins, Aaron Rodgers has more wins in the playoffs than the rest of the field combined with just 10. All right, Josh Allen has 7, but Stroud only has 2, Lawrence only has 1, and then Herbert, Nix, and May all have 0. So that is a huge advantage that Aaron Rodgers brings to the table. And don't kid yourselves, guys. Experience in the playoffs matters when it comes to postseason play. There's a reason why first-time playoff quarterbacks have a win percentage that's like less than 20%. All right, the first-time playoff quarterbacks, because they're inexperienced, it's the biggest stage they've ever played on in their entire life. The pressure is immense. They tend to get a little tight. All right, but guys that have been there before, Aaron Rodgers, who has not only had 21 playoff games under his belt, but he has been to a Super Bowl and has won it. He has been there. He has done that. He is not going to be afraid of those bright lights in the playoffs. And if you face a team with an inexperienced quarterback when it comes to the postseason in a playoff game, especially in a frigid Acrisure Stadium in the city of Pittsburgh, and it's like a warm weather team like the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Los Angeles Chargers or the Houston Texans, that's going to give the Steelers a big advantage. It's going to increase their chances of winning at least one playoff game this year, and it actually increases their chances of going on a run when playoff time comes around. That is, if Aaron Rodgers can rise to the occasion. Now, before we get to the rest of the news and rumors here on Steelers Talk today, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you're having a good time, if you appreciate the in-depth coverage that we provide for you guys here on the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day. Liking the video is the easiest way to help us out. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you like our content and that they should recommend it to other Steelers fans across the globe. And the more they recommend it to people, the more people that watch, the more people that watch, the more people that sub and like our videos. So that's a really good way to help out our channel, guys. Like today's video if you appreciate what we do for you here at Steelers Talk. Now we get to another news story here for the Steelers, which is that the Steelers ended up poaching Jeremiah Moon, the edge rusher from the Carolina Panthers practice squad yesterday. We put out a video yesterday talking about how the Steelers brought in some edge rushers to work out, but they ended up settling on Jeremiah Moon, who has been a contributor on this Steelers defense before. And he's probably going to be a contributor this week as this team plays the Detroit Lions. And the fact that they're bringing somebody in from somebody's practice squad, which means they're automatically added to the active roster here in Pittsburgh, tells me that there's probably a pretty good chance both TJ Watt and Nick Herbig do not play this week versus the Detroit Lions. And obviously that's going to be a big blow because, you're going to have Jack Sawyer, a rookie out of Ohio State, going up against Penei Sewell, maybe the best right tackle in all of football. That's not going to be a very favorable matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Jeremiah Moon is somebody that's got experience in this defense, and he has played with this defense in the past, so he's somebody that you can trust, relatively speaking, to some of the rest of the guys they could have brought in. Now, I know a lot of people out there wanted to bring in Matthew Judon, who was recently released by the Miami Dolphins, and when people ask me, why don't they bring in Matthew Judon? Well, there's two answers to that. Number one, he doesn't have as much experience as Moon does in the Pittsburgh Steelers' defense. All right, that matters, especially when you're asking somebody to quick turnaround, be a rotational edge rusher for us. Second reason is Matthew Judon fucking stinks. All right, he has been terrible these last two years. He was awful in Atlanta last year, and he's been awful in Miami this year. There's a reason why they're letting him go. All right, you watched the film last week. Matthew Judon was absolutely terrible versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's been bad all season long. Just ask a Dolphins fan. I don't think even in a rotational edge rusher type of role he would have been any good here at the Pittsburgh Steelers, whereas Jeremiah Moon is still relatively young. He still has some athleticism with him, and he has the more experience, so that's probably why they ended up going with Moon instead of bringing Judon's old ass here to Pittsburgh. So now we get to the likely edge rotation for Pittsburgh this week. It's going to be Alex Highsmith, Jack Sawyer likely as your starters, unless Watt or Herbig can somehow get back in the fold by Sunday afternoon. It's looking like those two guys will start. Then Jeremiah Moon will be the third guy, and then we'll see if DeMarvin Leal gets elevated to the game day roster this week. But for sure, Highsmith, Sawyer, and Moon will be on the active roster on Sunday. Speaking of injuries here, there's another injury added to the injury report today. Starting center Zach Frazier popped up with a triceps injury. So now your starting center and your starting left guard and Isaac Seumalo are dealing with triceps injuries. and Frazier did not practice today, and neither did Sayamalu. But Frazier says, he told Nick Farabaugh from Penn Live today that he should be able to play on Sunday. He's expecting to play against the Lions on Sunday, so he won't be 100%, it sounds like. He might be out of practice here, for the early portion of the week. He was out today, but we're all hoping that Frazier can eventually practice for the Steelers this week and play the high level of football he's played all season long for this offensive line. If he can't play, it'll be Ryan McCollum, the backup center, getting the start. Then the last thing I want to talk about on today's show is what the hell is going to happen with Roman Wilson? Because obviously Roman, he was a starter in this offense. One day, the next day, you're bringing up MVS and Adam Thielen, and Thielen's not, and Roman is not even getting a helmet. He's just been completely benched. Today, Roman talked to the media for the first time since that benching, and this is what he had to say about it. Just trying to look at it from every positive aspect. This is a good time for me to reflect on the rest of the season for me and how I've been improving, and just keeping that same mindset where every day is a good opportunity for me to build and grow and learn from guys like Adam, MVS, DK, and Aaron. It's been tough, but I'm trying to look at it as a big blessing and another opportunity to grow. I guess it just ran part of, or it's just a part of the process. I'll grow from it. I'll dig myself out. We'll look back and we'll just laugh at a moment like this someday. Now, guys, how do you not root for a guy like Roman Wilson? I mean, for a guy that has put in so much hard work to, get that starting position midway through the season this year and to get a lot of playing time and to not have, much success in the stat sheet, and then followed that by just getting straight up benched and not even getting a helmet on game days anymore. For a former third-round pick that this organization had a lot of expectations for heading into this year, it's got to be disappointing for him. It's got to be disappointing for the guys in the locker room because they were really relying on him to take that next step this year. And I don't think it was all his fault. I think sometimes quarterbacks struggled to hit him when he was open down the field this year. And I still think he could have a future in the National Football League. He's still a very talented guy with 4.3 speed, solid hands, decent route running ability. But with that said, this team clearly doesn't trust him, all right? And there's a reason for that. It's not like they just don't like Roman Wilson and they're benching him right now. That's not what's happening, all right? Even though he's very talented, and Aaron Rodgers has pointed out very consistently how talented Roman is, but what has Rodgers also been saying? He needs to get the little details right. He needs to run the routes the correct ways. And, he has to be where he needs to be during the timing of the progression. And it just seems like that hasn't been the case for Roman this year. There's certain ways that professionals run routes and, are in the timing of the progression and all this different stuff. And unfortunately, it just seems like Roman Wilson doesn't get that yet. And I'm hoping that he can eventually. Obviously, you spent a third-round pick on him. It would suck if this ended up being just a straight-up bust. But, he needs to do that stuff better if he wants to be a part of this football team moving forward. And because that lack of trust is there with Aaron Rodgers, with Arthur Smith, with Mike Tomlin, the head coach right now, I would say there's at least a pretty decent chance this team trades him for a day 3 draft pick next spring. And, that's very sad because I really wanted Roman Wilson to work here in Pittsburgh. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Roman Wilson be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026? I could see arguments for and against here, but let me know what you guys think. Yes or no, will Roman Wilson be back next season? That'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors by Chat Sports. Thank you guys for joining me here today. We're going to have more Steelers content coming your way this weekend, getting you guys ready for Sunday's matchup versus the Detroit Lions. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.